Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron, Patrick, and Johann Gary. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant, your weekly podcast, 8:30 a.m. every single Monday morning. I must admit, Johann, I think we've got to up our intro. I think I like it. I think it's catchy. I think it's it's got some oomph to it. But when you compare it to Ashley's homemade, he made it himself, and you get what you put in, and I feel like we're below the pecking order on that one. We need to figure out how to up on that one. Johann, how was your weekend? You had a good one? Had a good week so far?
Yeah, I had a very nice weekend, very chilled and relaxed after dealing with a HMRC in-person inspection on Friday for a client, which was total waste of time. The moment we said we use QuickBooks, he said, well, why am I here? It's like, I don't know. You tell me. You booked the meeting. But yeah, no, that went very well. So, it doesn't matter how confident you are with the processes and systems. When you get a letter through and your client and they've got to have an in-person inspection for compliance, you're always nervous and anxious about it. So it doesn't matter how confident you are about the outcomes, then you've got to deal with it. So yeah, two days of R&R, watched the Grand Prix, which was, it's Monaco. It's always a bit crap. And then, fairly chilled day today as well planned. My question for you is, if we've got to up our intro, which one of us can play a guitar and which one can sing? Because I don't think either of us can achieve either of those points.
Well, I own a guitar, if that counts. I mean, I can't play it. I've been trying to for the past 20 years, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we don't have enough talent between us to
absolutely
to
not.
from there. So
we'll leave it with Ashley to continue doing his great work.
Or is this a Chat GPT plugin somewhere that we can can we have a new intro, please? Question mark.
Upload those photos of both of us, create an intro video using these photos, and then create backing song to go with it.
With catchy song, please.
Yes.
I found if you're polite to Chat GPT, you get better results. That's yeah. Well, the Bing one that I'm using, definitely. Good morning, people. We've got Paul already in. Hello, Paul. How is it doing? Merlin's in as well. Hello, Merlin. Good morning to you too. And John. Hello, John. What do you guys think of the QuickBooks tax announcement last week? Oh,
come on to it. We'll come on to it.
Yeah, spoiler alert. No, we'll definitely be talking about that, John. Don't you worry. And Paul, how is the weather with you today, Johann? Hope the sun's finally turned up. What's the weather like? Go on, weather watch.
You know what?
To be fair, some sort of button
since Thursday. Yeah, I need another camera just to go Johann's weather. Since Thursday, to be fair, we've had pretty much blue skies and sunshine. We cannot complain.
Even when you're at the VAT inspection, the VAT didn't bring the rain with him or anything.
No, he turned up, disappeared after 2 hours. Could have made it probably make him disappear within an hour if my client stopped talking. It turns out when he gets nervous, you get verbal diarrhea. But yeah, which meant, so I went up and stayed in Dunkeld for a couple of nights because of the trip. Took Claire and the dog with me because it's a nice rural Scottish Highlands, so they could go walking and stuff like that. So yeah, he was in at 10, gone by 12, and I spent Friday afternoon in the beer garden. Very much relaxing. So in the sunshine, so I cannot complain.
Nice. You were saying how with QuickBooks he was really happy and excited. I wonder if it was anything else, like maybe zero or something. He might be 40% less happy with that. But, Anyway,
wouldn't like to say.
Episode number 32. The date is 29th of May 2023. And good morning, Kirsty, to you too. And it's probably less we talk about the musical thing on the QuickBooks Labs, the better. So if you know, you know. But yeah, let's
so
just say
bad,
it's
it's
not
good.
the finest editing hour. Yeah, exactly. You got it spot on there. Yeah, it's so bad, it's good.
Can we just defend anyone on people per hour or Fiverr? We didn't pay anyone to do that. Aaron did that himself.
Yeah,
Funnily enough, he's not getting a professional rating on Fiverr.
Funnily enough, yeah. I just thought that QuickBooks might have a thing or two to say about the legal teams. I thought we'll just the money we spent on Fiverr we'll use to defend any legal thing that's coming, because I don't think they're that bothered. I mean, it's an old logo, if anything. So yeah, we'll put that money to good use. All right, we got lots to talk about, and including QuickBooks' new announcement, and we'll talk about that. But first of all, Starling's had a bit of an update. So Starling, one of the banks that's Marmite at the moment, is probably best to describe it. We do love innovation. That's what it's all about, right? And we do love the idea of using spaces, or what they call it in the other one. We've got spaces, we've got envelopes, we've got they're all different types of names.
Yeah.
On all different solutions. It's really a place to put some money in a much more sophisticated way, without having to go and create extra banks, and you can drum up as many as you like. And we've talked about it before, and it is definitely something we really like. We love the concept of spaces. It comes with challenges as from a bookkeeping point of view, especially if someone makes payment from those spaces and we don't see them coming through the bank feed. There's items like that. And I know Starling's looking to fix that with QuickBooks, and I assume with the rest of the bookkeeping solutions. But they came up with a new a new update, new innovation, new whatever you want to call it, and they're calling it split payments. So the idea is that when money gets received into your bank account, or your bank account if you're using Starling, then you have an option to go through and automatically split it in the transaction itself, either by percentage base, which can be really powerful, things like VAT and tax saving, or you get to split it on an individual basis and put the rest in there. Now, Johann, we were talking behind the scenes, and we both had the same moment when we first heard about this. Is this going to be compatible? Are we going to have more headaches when it comes to bookkeeping and everything else? But I'm glad to say that I've tested the solution, and I can say that from a bookkeeping point of view, it's just doing as you expect. The money comes in, and then 2 other transactions, or however many other transactions comes through. So my question to you, Johann, what do you think to the feature? Do you think this is something that everyone should be adopting? Is this something that goes forward? And a follow-up question is, does this make you yearn even more for that fable almost there of QuickBooks Bank and what we were promised was coming from there? So go for it, Johann. What's your thoughts on it?
So I think in theory, this is a great tool to help accountants and bookkeepers educate their clients into good behavior. Of set a rule on Starling, every pound that comes in, X amount of pence goes into a VAT pot, X amount of pence goes into a corporation or personal tax return pot, etc. Love it. And then when it gets to that period, when you file your tax return, with whatever tax it is, you take your payment from there, and whatever's left over is your treat. That's your spending money. So in theory, I love it. Very good for anyone that's trying to practice profit first, which is a money discipline Mike Michalowicz has written about several times and talks about a lot. So yeah, from that point of view, absolutely fantastic. My initial concern was, as you said, Aaron, like ultimately, is it tracking this properly? Because we all know when it does its little rounding up thing of if I spend $9.99, it doesn't allocate, it doesn't track that penny that it moves into a saving pot properly. So that was my concern, was this is going to make bookkeeping even more of a mess. It sounds like it's not. It sounds like £10 comes in, and then you get a transaction for £2 going out to your VAT space or whatever. That's great. My only wish is that they'd, instead of prioritizing this, is they prioritize reporting on those spaces first. That's more important. If they can get that reporting on spaces right, they can do anything they want with those features of automatic splitting incomes and stuff. That's not a concern for me. But they need to get those spaces right.
Yeah, 100%. And I know, like, I have seen some. I'm trying to think of NDAs and stuff. I think I'm okay, but I've seen some behind the scenes workings of these spaces being connected and everything else. But I think the danger is always going to be with these spaces is it's not going to be an automatically just appear on your software. It's going to be more of some form of admin to get it connected. And it, for me, like the whole idea of spaces and everything else, I absolutely love. And I think, if you can discipline your clients or at least teach your clients about using spaces, they're going to be in a better position, just as you said there, yeah. I mean, I always remember back to a client of mine who she was more of a like agency for kind of different influencers type thing and had lots of pots of money for different things. And basically she had 105 different spaces. And not rightly so, because every time she received money for a particular, project or whatever it was, she'd screw it away in there. And that's what she would spend on that particular project. And in her bank, she had like 100 quid left because that was what was left over, right? And even though she was having all this money come through, she was very acute to the fact that she's getting a lot of turnover, but she's not making much profit. And that's when we can start working with them and helping them and micromanage for them and give them some advice. But until she saw that spaces concept, she was not aware of it. She was just seeing all this cash flow coming in and everything else. So from a discipline point of view and from helping teach clients those fundamental basics, absolutely amazing. I'm just worried that all of these little innovations that come in, everything that's going to keep coming forward as they start bringing in these new ideas, it's just going to give us more and more headaches from a bookkeeping point of view, and that detracts from what it should be. Just with this, go
I
for
need
it.
to throw a cat in the pigeons here.
Go on then, go for it.
I've got a client who, when they came to me a couple of years ago, were in all sorts of cash flow nightmares. Actually, it was just money discipline. So we told him, put a bit here, but he's using Starling. We've just come to do his year-end accounts because his year-end was the end of April.
Yeah,
check us out. Within a week, we're off getting bank statements. Very happy with that.
Because client engager told you that it was a.
It could be something to do with client engager telling us to crack on. But what we do for year-end, regardless of whether someone's got anything connected to QuickBooks, Xero, Free Agent, wherever it is, we send an Analytics request to get a year's worth of transactions. We sent that to our client and it came back listing his main account and all the spaces and gave us a bank statement in effect for every single space.
Through Analytics.
So that data is available on an open API.
Ooh.
So where's the problem? Is it actually Starling or is it with QuickBooks, Xero, Free Agent, etc., who haven't built out to this new API or this new feature set in their API?
Well, the thing is, if it's a client using a regular space, I don't think this is going to be a problem because it will be that extra admin of them having to add another bank account. Okay, that to me feels like a fair enough compromise. You go in, you add it, everything's done. But if I go back to my client with 105 different spaces and they're creating spaces constantly and updating them and everything else, that's not going to work, right? That's a lot of extra admin. I mean, she's creating a rob for her own back in the way she's doing her work, but she shouldn't be penalized for doing best practice, right? And I think that's the position we unfortunately fall into.
Yeah. I mean, this client's just as bad. He has got, so I'm just looking at this now. He's got May 2022 to April 23 corporation tax. And that's on top of the May 21 to April 22 corporation tax. He's got a new pot for every VAT quarter. And he just closes the old one once he's taken the money out of it. And it's like, well, actually, from an admin point of view, if you just called it VAT, it'd probably be a bit easier. But the benefit of these pots is he's gone from being in debt with everyone, including HMRC, to 2 years later, having free cash to invest in pensions and stuff like that, because the pots have helped his money discipline. So, if I can pull through the pots on Analytics, then that data must be available It's just how QuickBooks and Xero and Co handle that. Oh, there's another new pot. What do you want me to do with this?
Yeah. And you'll have to remind me of Armolytics, but do you get it through as a bank statement, but then do we have the option then to CSV file it in? Could we then treat it as a bank, or
so
is it PDF only?
So you get a PDF and then you get a CSV file with every single pot in it. Yeah. So we can upload and you can't do this in Xero, but we could take that balance and reconcile using the QuickBooks reconciling tool every pot to make sure we've got it right, because occasionally money goes into the wrong pot. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. All right. Okay. Okay. I see that there. And yeah, so I like this feature. My only, or kind of thinking back to it, to that original point though, the one thing this brings me back to is when QuickBooks announced their bank, and they were talking about pots or envelopes, they were calling it. And they had two really exciting features, right? The first one was an automatic envelope. So you could state and almost put rules in place, or however you want to class it, but a rule in place that if X amount of money comes in, say, client income comes in, then 20% automatically goes to a VAT pot, for example.
Yep.
That seems like that would be the next logical step for Starling to look at and bring into there. My question to you, though, would be, would you see any benefit if there was like an accountant's only access where we can't move money outside of businesses, but we can move money around pots? Would that be something excited for you? And I suppose if they did give us that, would we need to see that some sort of linked back to QuickBooks that we're doing it in there? How would you feel about that?
I think it's not as much whether we'd want that functionality as whether our governing bodies or our insurance providers would allow it.
But if we're not leaving the bank, because remember, spaces never leave the bank, so we're not paying anyone. We're just...
No, but those spaces can be used to pay. So if I move money and then someone misses their direct debit because I moved that money into a different pot,
I see what you're saying, right?
Then are we liable for that missed payment? I think whenever you start dabbling with client money, it's a very murky space that most people don't want to get into. So yeah, I would leave it to the client, but the ability to sit there with the client and create their spaces with them on their phone in that meeting.
And make sure you put the word spaces in front.
Yeah, and then to sit there and go, right, let's come up with some rules. We know, based on your VAT returns of past, on average, every 10p of money that comes for every pound that comes in goes to the VAT man. Let's set up a rule of 10p, because give or take, that's going to be your VAT bill covered. Like, to have that, the value it offers to that business is phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. And then another one for personal tax, another one for corporation tax. You could really help a client every time income comes in. I mean, it's not going anywhere. They could move it back if they need to, but it's just that first bit.
It's not restricted or anything, but you have to think twice. It makes you think twice, and you feel a bit guilty about moving money out of the VAT pot to go into the main pot.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly. Yeah. Brilliant. All right. Okay. I think we got onto a winner there. Sam couldn't agree more with you. So yeah, that's good. I can't remember what point that was, but yeah, well done.
Sort the reporting of spaces out first.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, brilliant. Paul says, even if there is just an accounting mapping option in the integration like you have with Bizetto or the like is all we will need. Yeah, and like Johann said, the API is already there, so it's just a plug in and hope for the best. Andy says, I've seen that too with Armolytics, 25 spaces, and I can't handle complexity, so handed it over to Liam. Well, yeah, I mean, that's another option. Just pass it to a team member.
Can you tell Andy put his back out yesterday and he's struggling to sleep because it's 10 to 9 on a bank holiday Monday and he's on here?
Speaking of bank holiday Monday, Ashley says, it's bank holiday, you should be chilling, guys. Consistency pays, Ashley. Come on, you know this. We learned this from you. Like, this was we're only here because you told us to be here. Andy says in QuickBooks Xero format, so good. Cheers for that, Andy. All right, okay. So I think we've spoke about that enough, but exciting new innovation, right? We like that. We like that a lot, and we just wish that the QuickBooks bank would have appeared at some point. But alas. Okay, first of all, let's talk about a bit of public service announcements with our favorite topic, HMRC. So this is more that people can understand it more than anything else. So for anyone out there who has a nice, sophisticated tax solution, so we're using Capium at the moment for our personal tax. They have a fancy new feature where you get to connect to HMRC's APIs and get to bring in some information directly into the tax return. So the one that's really useful is bringing in P60s, P45 information. It's actually started bringing in some pension information in as well. Originally, it was designed to bring in things like a self-employed income support scheme, although it's not really relevant anymore. But we're hoping to see more and more of these, what HMRC already know, basically, to come in. I mean, imagine the dream that CIS contractors, for example, got to bring in that information, that sort of stuff. And we love this feature. And last year was a huge, huge benefit to us, and that made it so much more efficient. You imagine the fact that we didn't need to ask for P60s and P45 off every client, or at least we weren't waiting for them, even though we remind them on a regular basis and we're doing all the good things. You still had some clients who just, for whatever reason, were holding back that information. Well, the fact that we were able to collect that information directly from HMRC, prepare draft accounts or draft tax returns as we needed to, just made life so much easier. And when it rolled around to this year and everyone was getting all excited about getting as many accounts done as possible, I was a little bit frustrated because every time I went to obtain the information, nothing was there. I should have remembered, and Johann told me before the show that this was the same last year, but that information is not available from HMRC until the 6th of June. So they're calling it the reconciliation of PAYE, and will generally start on the 6th of June, but it does differ from individuals, so it could be later than the 6th of June. I mean, question to you, Johann. I mean, this is a real-time information that we report in PAYE, yeah? So remind me what this delay is. Why are we almost 3 months now into it? Like, explain to me what I'm missing here, why this has to wait until the 6th of June when surely this should be available the 6th of April.
I mean, you're right. We get penalized for not filing on time because we're breaking their real-time information, and that real-time information is being used in real time for things like benefits, etc. So yeah, why is it not available constantly and constantly up to date? I can only assume because HMRC have got a million different systems. Someone's got to spend 3 months with a floppy drive, taking it from one computer and putting it into another. That's all I can assume. But yeah, typical HMRC, nothing talks to each other. Like the fact that my HMRC VAT inspector on Friday said, look, I don't blame people getting annoyed for the absolutely appalling customer service. I work for HMRC and I can't get the information and things done that I need to get done because it's all on different systems with different people. So yeah, like the guy even presented us with a warrant card and said, oh, proof of ID. If you ring HMRC, they should be able to validate this, but I can't promise anything.
Should.
And we've had it in the past where we've rang HMRC to validate someone that's come in off the street to hand in like debt notices and stuff, and they can't validate that person has ever worked for HMRC. It's like, great, well, what's the point? But it's because it's on a different system. So yeah, real-time information, it's there. I know they're utilizing it extremely effectively for the benefits system because they will be the first people to reduce your benefits when you go over your normal allowances. But yeah, it's just, it must be another system that doesn't talk to this system. It just, like, common sense says it should. But yeah, it is ultimately, in theory, it is a great facility. But as we saw in a recent article on Accounting Web, like over 77,000 tax returns were filed early April. So people want to do their returns quicker. But HMRC systems don't facilitate that. Yet they get upset when you keep leaving it to the last minute. What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, some good points in the chat. It's called HMRC Fetch on TaxCalc, and Andy says early year update timeframe, which is probably where the 6th of June actually comes from, thinking about it. So yeah, spot on. And yeah, Paul's saying exactly the same thing. It's there. But I mean, if they're waiting for the end of year tax frame to pass, then why not wait all the way up until the benefit in kind thing passes as well? So it's just inconsistency, isn't it? I mean, when this first came out, it was an absolute game changer for us, right? We had the opportunity to be able to extract the information, and it is more useful for those clients who are dragging their feet. Your star clients are already going to send that information in. As soon as they get a P60, they'll upload it to your CRM portal. Job done, right? Most clients who are in that bracket, this not going to affect. The bit that this really helped us out was those last minute clients who just came along. As long as you got the the 64.8 in place, you're able to extract that information, and it made the process so much quicker and cleaner. Without its faults, though. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to re-authenticate it, or at least update it, or at least connect it to another client. You have to go through putting your personal passport, your personal driving license, and your personal. And we're talking about me here, and you, and if you were putting it in, like that bit just didn't make sense to me. That was weird. Like, why were we putting our personal information to get our clients' information when we're not connected to 64.8 in any way? It was odd, right? But that's the hoops we were made to jump through, and we passed through those hoops. So it was without its flaws, but yeah, it's like typical HMRC, right? It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, right? And it is, we've got to find ways to make this cleaner and better for going forward, surely.
Definitely, yeah. And as you say, it is 2 steps forwards, 3 steps back. For the reason we didn't even bother using it last year was the constant authorization issues and the time delay. Like, I've been issuing different coding notices to some clients for the last 3 or 4 months, and they just don't arrive in the post. Yet other clients have arrived in the post, and it's like, and the clients rang HMRC, they've confirmed all the addresses are right, and they just don't arrive. And you just kind of think, well, with all of that, how much value does that bank HMRC fetch feature actually bring? Like, is it saving us all that time of getting through the authorization, the 648 process, or do we just ask the client for the records? Because the moment I file a tax return and the client's forgotten to tell me something, they get a letter saying you've not declared this. This is our recalculation. So if HMRC are going to make my life difficult, I'm just going to say to the client, look, this is everything you've declared to me. If HMRC have anything else on record, they will send you an updated calculation, and we go from there.
Yeah, and it kind of almost forces our hand, even though we don't want to do that for client records and keeping them clean and squeaky, do we? But if we're forced our hand, what else can we do?
Exactly.
It's always that point as well, isn't it? As an agent, why don't we get to see the same that the client gets to see? Like, why do we sometimes have to convince a client to sign in on their behalf so that we can extract the data that we need? Why is a 648 not enough for us to just do that anyway? It's been broken. But you mentioned there about posts. So as a bit of a segue, one of our cool friends, and she was in the chat earlier, I don't know if she's still here, put an interesting point on LinkedIn that we thought we'd best make sure everyone's aware of. So she's titled this letter. So this is Sam, by the way, Sam Mitchum. She's titled the letter, Dear HMRC Revenue and Customs, why do your VAT penalty points letters only state the client's VAT number and not the business name? To have to search our systems, find out who a letter relates to before we begin to read it is rather annoying. Yours faithfully, accountants everywhere. She's got a good point, hasn't she? Have you seen these letters come through?
Oh, yeah. We've had a load that are inaccurate to start with. They were filed on time. So we're now going to have to appeal all of those in writing, because that's all you can do.
Well, first of all, you'll find out what the client is.
Well, yeah, once we found who the client was, we then realised this shouldn't have been issued. But a prime example of this, so I was on a Facebook group the other day. A bookkeeper who's not VAT registered got this penalty letter through and just went, has anyone seen these? I'm not even VAT registered. How have I got a penalty? And we kind of went, actually, it's not, although it's got your name and your address on it, it's not you. it's your client. And if you search your client records for that VAT number, you'll find which client. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. We should have known this new system wouldn't have gone without a hitch. But yeah, I've literally got a pile here of 6 penalty notices that I need to appeal because they've just, I don't know what's happened there. Don't really care because I've got all the data in QuickBooks. I can do some screenshots of filing dates and times, and I can send them off.
So my question is, because I haven't had one, so I don't know if they also do they relate to any notifications you've had online? Have you had any emails through or anything?
No, nothing like that. It just gives you a date of the letter being printed. So, to be fair, it only took a week to arrive, which is quite good for them.
And Scotland as well.
And it's Scotland, yeah. We've literally just date, VAT registration number, period reference, my name and address at the top. We've issued a VAT penalty. You get 1 point. Once you've got 4 points, we charge you £200.
Whereas in this case, the point probably shouldn't have even stood in the first place. So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, I don't understand where HMRC is coming from without the names and stuff. Is this a new initiative they've got? Is this data protection or?
There is a sentence here. If you're an authorized agent or representative, please use the VAT registration number to check if this notice applies to you or one of your clients. Go to gov.uk and search VAT check.
So there's no reason for it then. It's just well, it must be just for their way. I assume the clients had one though that's got their name and address all over it, but it's just our agent one that comes through like this. That's right assumption, or is this not the case?
I've not seen one that's been sent directly to a
client's
client.
Not brought someone over to you yet.
This is purely the ones that we've been sent, which makes a change because you know what? I've noticed recently HMRC aren't very good at CCing in or copying in authorized agents. So, for example, we should have received a letter at the same time as my client in regards to the VAT inspection. We didn't. We only knew because the client rang us.
I mean, in fairness, in my opinion, like going forward, yes, they've still got this whole issue of having to send letters. So they're not going to get around that, right? There's a requirement for them to anything like penalty points and everything else. They have to do by letter. It's a requirement they've got to send. So keep sending them to the clients. That's fine. But why do we as agents not get some sort of online portal that we can see these letters come, these emails come into? Surely that makes more viable sense for us. And then we could use clever software to API link in and attach it or whatever, create
Why can't we appeal online?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do I have to sit here? I've got to go to HMRC later. They've decided to fine my client for not paying his corporation tax on time. We've got a copy of his bank statement. He's clearly paid it on time. He's clearly used the right references. They've just not allocated it properly. So that's phone calls with the client, phone calls with HMRC, writing a letter, printing it out, going and posting it. And I'm going to have to wait 6 months for a blooming response, knowing HMRC at the moment. It's crippling our industry.
Yeah. And their solution is let's close down more phone numbers and call centers and everything else.
Yep.
So yeah, okay. I mean, there's nothing else we can really talk about it now, but it's just a PSA to anyone out there. If you are getting these random VAT letters without any client names on or anything else, then maybe it's time you get a decent CRM solution or where you can quickly put the number in to a search bar in top right hand corner and find out what your client is. But unfortunately, your hands are tied if you don't have anything like that. Okay, but yeah, as the chat says, it was you as well, Sam. Yeah, thank you very much for your topic, even though you didn't actually let us use it, but we stole it anyway. Paul says, also, why don't we have the online form tracking service as an agent like clients have? Not sure if you've seen this yourselves. I've never played around with it from a client's point of view, but yeah, if it's anything like some of the other online solutions they have at the moment, I'm not 100% confident it works, but yeah, hopefully it does work, Paul. And if not, why are we not got access to it? And like Mark says, expect to reply by 2025. Oh, innovation coming through already. Yeah, template response letter in Siege. Yeah, and maybe you type the VAT number in, automatic generates it for you. Yeah, gets it's
well. So we've got a PDF generating tool in Client Engager. So yeah, I can create a template in there. To be fair, we've pre-populated with all our usual spiel that then pulls in through placeholders, everything else, and we can add anything we need to add in a little section. We do something similar for Starling Bank. They're quite good at the moment for requesting a letter from an accountant to say that this business is genuine. So within a couple of clicks, I've got a letter from a template with all the placeholder information to say what we need to say, print it off, or we can either print it off and send it in an email, or we just leave it there and we notify the client that we've uploaded it to their portal and they can do with it what they will.
Interesting you said placeholder there. So that's a great segue to our next topic, that's omitted placeholders, which if Client Engager can bring it in, you would have thought someone who, and we'll talk about sales figures later, but with considerably deeper pockets have failed to provide that feature in day one. I'm talking about the brand new Pro Tax and Accounts production software that's been released by QuickBooks Online. Noted by John, who talked in the very beginning. What do you guys think of the QuickBooks tax announcement last week? We'll be completely honest with you, John. We knew about it a long time ago, but I got to play with it.
I mean, we've been playing with it for about 2 years and breaking it.
Thankfully, we got to make sure they didn't release it in their first iteration, which would have been an interesting conversation topic, to say the least. I mean, it would have been great for the show, but yeah, we're going for it. So just to catch everyone up, basically, QuickBooks have become feature parity with the likes of Xero and Sage, because I'm pretty sure Sage's is pretty much the same one. If there's any Sage experts out there, do tell us otherwise. But they have released their accounts production software that does FRS 105 and a Pro Tax, they're calling it, solution that they stole from Canada of all places, which allows the submission of the accounts to Companies House and creation and submission of CT600s to HMRC. So first of all, great that this is out. Fantastic. This is we want feature parity. We want to, we don't have to choose between what software is right for an emerging firm or a brand new firm, for example. It now levels the playing field from there. What's your initial thoughts on this? Bearing in mind that this is version 1.0. Technically, it's like an open beta at this point, I'd say. Although I don't think they're actually saying that, but I think it is, realistically, if you're going to adopt this early into a brand new product, you've got to expect a few ties to kick here and there, haven't you? So what's your thoughts on it, Johann? What's your initial reactions?
I'm glad it's finally out in public and we can talk about it, because we've been biting our lips for a long, long time. Like, we know what's coming. It's going to be okay. It's got potential to be amazing. Look, as I've said many, many times, I power our accounts production with QuickBooks Working Papers. Like, every single client goes through QuickBooks Working Papers. That's our system. It's our flow. Our team love it. But what they've released this week, it's not at the point that I can adopt it right now because it's too inefficient. It's more efficient for me to import into, in our case, we're the same as you, Aaron, we use KPM. So we would import into KPM, map out the trial balance, generate the accounts, post back the corporation tax, etc., into QuickBooks. That's more efficient than trying to use what they've just released. There's too many caveats. There's too many thinking points that I need to, or my team need to think about for us to see it as an efficient use of our time. Once we get some improvements in it, and there are a lot of improvements being spoken about, I would be very happy to use it. And depending on when it's all ready and whether we can then do SA 100s, SA 800s, etc. from it, At that point, yes, I would be stepping away from KPM to use the QuickBooks tool. But we're probably talking a few years away from that. So yeah, at the moment, it's a start. I think personally they could have refined it and got it a lot more powerful before they released it. I feel like they were under scrutiny after announcing it at QuickBooks Connect in March. They were under a lot of pressure to get it out, whether it was right or wrong. When I first saw that email last week when it first came out, I did think there'd been a boo-boo. I did think, ooh, I don't think they meant to send that email out. I don't think the product's ready from what I've seen. But yeah, no, then social media jumped on it, and yeah, Nick Williams was talking about it on LinkedIn and stuff. It's like, right, well, actually, maybe they did mean to release it, and oh dear.
Yeah, I mean, if you are in the position where you're still creating your accounts via Company's House and HMRC's portal, and you are having to go in and type in all the numbers and everything else from there, then yeah, this is a huge upgrade, right? Like if you don't have any form of accounts production software, this is fantastic for you. And if you're one of those practices who just has, say, handful of clients on Xero, handful of clients on QuickBooks, handful of clients on Sage, then you're in a position now where you could realistically not need accounts production software. You know, personal tax returns are still going to be an issue for you, but you could jump onto HMRC and do it via there if you really wanted to. Like if you like, let's say you've really just started out, you don't have the budget for an accounts production software because they are expensive, right? That's a significant investment when you first start out, and it is it could be a barrier of entry to, some practices starting out in the first place. This is a great solution for you. Now, you've still got to very much know what you're doing. It doesn't hold your hand. And I love KPM and Capium, or however you want to call it. Like I've been using them for years and years at this point, like 10 plus years now. Is it 10? Yeah, it might be 10. And I've been using them that long. My biggest criticism of them compared to the competition is that you need to know what the end result needs to be. It isn't a solution where it will guide you to do this and guide you to do that, where we've seen it in the past, or we've seen it with others, where there's very much a much more slicker way of being able to make sure the disclosures are right, and you're going through and there. And KPM's is very much a case of, right, here's a tool set, here's a toolbox, and you can create whatever set of accounts you want, but you need to know what you're doing, right? That's what KPM's strengths have been. It gives you the toolbox, as they pop up behind me. They give you the tools to do it. At the moment, it feels like with QuickBooks, we've not even got the toolbox yet, unfortunately. And that's the frustration thing, right? I'm looking at it as positive as I can and trying to make it use case for as much as I can. But you're right. Like at the end of the day, if I want to adopt this for any scenario, I've got to accept it's going to take me longer. I'm going to be less efficient at this point in time. And that's goes against exactly what this is designed to be, right? The danger of this at the moment is that if we don't get enough adoption and enough people eyes on it and using it and to get the feedback, that it will take much longer to actually improve and go forward. So it's chicken and egg scenario at the moment, isn't it? And that's the difficulty that we kind of see ourselves in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but I, out of interest, timed myself when I was playing around with this between using KPM and using QuickBooks Pro Tax. It took me 5 times longer to use QuickBooks Pro Tax, and it was a very simple set of accounts and tax return. It wasn't complex at all. But I can't afford to multiply accounts production and tax filing by 5 times in time consumption. It's not going to happen. So until they can sort out, simple things like placeholders actually populating with placeholder information, then yeah, it's a no-go.
Yeah, unfortunately. And, we'll talk about it in a plug for QuickBooks Labs when we talk about it in more detail, but the whole has to be purely 12 months issue. That's going to be huge. And that is not a fix that can happen overnight. There is no way that is just a switch in the background to be done, because it's been like that forever. So yeah, that's a worry from what we can see. But the fact it's there, the fact it's out is great. It does, it does kind of come back to that story before we've had where what a great time to start an accounting practice. Like from Sage having the whole scenario, the whole suite, you could do everything with them. Now Xero and QuickBooks offering pretty much, comparative to that as well, and more to come. Wow. Like, yeah, this is so much easier than it was, even when we started, and we had it pretty easy. Let's be honest. Like there was a lot of software, a lot of choices. So yeah, it's a great time to be thinking about setting up your own what do you call it? Sounds good. What we said from in the chat, Kirsty's commented, Ash didn't seem overly impressed the other day. Still some gaps that you want automating. Yeah, exactly right. Definitely. There, Kirsty. And yeah, poor Ash, he was he was struggling to find enthusiasm for some of the solutions. But it is the first iteration of it, and I'm sure more good things are coming. Well, I know they are because I've already seen some of the updates coming. Paul says definitely open beta vibes going on. What I've seen in your announcement video the other day, Aaron. Yep, completely agree. And Paul also said things like the name mapping shouldn't take long to develop and hopefully less likely to break the important code underneath. Yeah, it's really odd. I almost at one point was like, I haven't mapped a set of accounts in 15 years. Like,
I don't think I've ever mapped a set of accounts. Software's always done it.
Yeah, I mean, there was this whole when mapping first came out, it was this big thing about tagging and all this, that, and the other. And it just reminded me of going back to those days of the fear. It was basically the precursor to MTD itself. It was that sort of an MTD itself, and that sort of fear monger in the accounting industry. And I was going back to that, and yeah, it was interesting times had by all. And yeah, AJ's got it spot on. Never been a better time for new practices. Yep, that is exactly it. And it's not just and what I love about it at the moment, it's not just the software they're giving us, it's the support as well. You think back to the marketing training like AJ's got there, and all of that sort of stuff. We're really in a boom moment, really, haven't we, in terms of being able to create a new practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting from a software point of view of, if I turn around to our team at Client Engager and said, look, I need these placeholders built, I know it will be done by the end of the week.
Yeah.
It is that simple. I mean, the developers will tell you it's not. But ultimately, it's one of the simpler things they could do because it's just referencing information that's already there.
Yeah.
If anything, the fact that they've not been able to do this, and we flagged the placeholder issue a couple of months ago, tells you how much constraint is on the development teams at these bigger companies that actually stops them from being dynamic and reactive.
And in fairness to him, like, it's Client Engager's a really impressive software, but it's still in its infancy. So like the levels of code needed to get to the point, comparisons must be huge, right? Like if you're comparing Client Engagers to QuickBooks, right? So there must be a lot more complication there, and there's and everything else.
But they've also got a million times more developers across the world.
This is true. But the positivity or the positive bit about all this is the fact that this is their product. They built this from scratch.
Yeah. They've not taken, like Xero did, a unknown tax software and plugged it in to realize, it never worked before. It now definitely doesn't work now.
Apparently 40% less now. Sorry. Yeah, no. Maybe I should start that joke now.
You always make that joke 40% less times.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the fact they own it from start to finish means they could do what they want. And we've said before, like, the exciting thing to us is this is the first step. Well, what can AI do? What can all that sort of stuff? Yeah. And that's where you have the chance to really see the excitement coming through. And we did have a point here to talk about Intuit stock and how they're doing in terms, because we spoke about Xero last week.
Yep.
Basically, they've got a lot of cash, so I don't know much more we can say about that, to be honest. We're not Chris Downing, who can look into it in a lot more detail. So final topic of the day then, I thought I'd do a little tech roundup because there's been some interesting technology elements coming through. One of those tech elements we're going to showcase at Digital Accounting Show is streaming setups and our fancy new setup for doing the grid walk and stuff like that. So a bit of a personal plug, but do keep an eye out for that, because I think we've got a lot of head scratching moments that we've had to overcome, haven't we? And I think that's where we'll be able to add some value to it. So do definitely keep an eye out of that. It's all about making sure you get your content out live like we are doing now, but in a remote location. So yeah, more on that. But Logitech came out with a really interesting device here that I think personally could be an absolute game changer in terms of how we're trying to adopt the accountancy industry going forward. So Logitech solution for hot desking. It's basically a dock with a screen. So if you think about it, there has been a big push at the moment for solutions or laptops and computers to have the opportunity to have one wire to solve them all. The idea that you can rock up to any desk, plug one wire in, and or your mice, keyboards work, your monitor works, you get internet, get everything. So USB-C, Thunderbolt, however it's going to be. And that trend has really taken off. And the idea that you could just go from home to maybe an office and literally you're plugging into one and you can hot desk around, it doesn't matter where you are, really does appeal, right? Instead of having to bring dongles with you and have to worry about compatibility and all that sort of stuff. If you can have a solution where one wire plugs straight into your computer, your job done. It powers it as well. It does it all. Logitech's come up with a solution called the Logi Dock Flex, which will be available sometimes in fall 2023, so autumn 2023 for us English speaking. And the idea here is it takes that dock, that one wire to rule them all. That wire goes into your laptop. The cool thing about this one is it's got a built-in screen. So this built-in screen gives you the ability to do hot desking directly from it. So the idea is you can always put code in, maybe to say it's you, or say that you arrived or anything like that. But that extra screen gives you the ability to have an extra screen if you need it. But what it comes really useful for is things like Microsoft Teams and all those sort of elements that can come into it. I thought this was a really cool idea. I think that the way it's positioned in the picture I'm looking at the moment is it very much like an iPad's been stuck to one of these docks. So it's giving you that flexibility to go from there. Now, I know at the moment you've kind of fully gone remote and same as us, but we've found a few flaws in being 100% remote. And we are now looking at ways in which we can become more hybrid than ever before. We still add in flexibility. We still want to have that option and that because it's a competitive market, right? For trying to get new staff in. So we've got to offer that. But I think a solution like this could make that perfect, opportunity for you to have that flexibility, that hybrid working office. What do you think? Have you been able to see it? Have you seen the actual concepts and everything?
Yeah, so I had a look at the concepts. I couldn't work out how big the screen was.
8-inch.
8-inch.
So iPad mini side like kind of into it.
I don't really see that as a second screen. It is a video calling thing at best. And did they say how much it was going to be?
$699.
Yeah, you see, for the sake of, my setup, as I'm sure yours is a bit extreme, Aaron, here. So I have got 2 wires going into my laptop because I've got 2 docking ports, because I'm running 1 ultra wide, 2 standard monitors, 3 different cameras, 2 different microphones. It's completely and utterly unnecessary, but don't tell my wife that. It's all very important stuff.
All tax beneficial.
All tax beneficial. I'm running 2 Stream Decks. I've got a new sound gadget coming soon. But if I wanted to set up a work from like a co-working desk feature in our offices where my team all just have a laptop and they come in and plug in, I could do it for a lot less and have a lot more functionality there. So I could have a decent, 24-inch monitor. I could have a dock. I could have the cables. I could have a webcam, speakers, and a headset. I could probably do it for £300 or £400, and it'd be more than sufficient. Do I need to spend £600 just to have my iPad mini on a little docking station? No.
I mean, in fairness, I don't think you're supposed to use the second screen as a full-blown monitor. Like, you are supposed to spend £699 and then buy a monitor.
Yeah, you see. Whereas I can go out and get a Cal Digit for what, $250, which will power 2 monitors and all the gadgets in the world. Like, I don't think the screen on top of it, which is ultimately the only difference, actually justifies the price tag.
Yeah. This might sway you one way or another. I think I know which way it's going to sway you. You also need a £49 annual subscription per desk.
Yeah, no.
I thought that might win it.
No. And is that for this hot desking booking system?
In fairness, yeah. Which you could then you could use a third party instead. So, and then Microsoft would bring you one out, so you could use it by Teams sort of thing. So you don't have to spend the £49, but that is an option if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, we've got a client who is a co-working space. They use a system called Skedder, which is free of charge if you want it to be, and you don't want any of the posh features. But if you want to be able to bill and take payments for desk bookings via Stripe, then I think it works out about £45 a month.
That's per desk or per?
No, for the company.
Okay, so this is per desk.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sold at all. I think it's kind of a cool idea, and it might have its place, and it's probably about as gimmicky as, when you go to hot desks or these offices there where they let out small rooms on a monthly or whatever, and they've got the cool little Skype phones on their desk.
Yeah.
That costs extra to turn that on for you and link it to stuff. Is it just replacing those kind of phones?
Ultimately, it is, isn't it? That's what it is. It's your new desk phone, isn't it? Which
Put it this way, when you sent me that link, my bank card didn't twitch.
I sent you a lot of links.
Yeah. Bank card didn't twitch for that one, which is good because it's twitched for enough of your links recently.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at some point, all this is going to be mute anyway, because this will be what you'll walk up to, or you'll bring your own, whatever it's going to be. Like this, unfortunately, for what it looks like at the moment, this is the future. We're not 100% sold on it yet, but we can see that's where it's going to go. So, yeah, it's. I thought it was a cool concept. I was considering it. I think you've talked me out of it now, though. So, yeah, maybe we'll.
I'll just take commission on the savings you've made there. Don't worry.
I mean, thinking about it, for £699, you probably get an iMac, and for the amount of people or the little amount of time that people use it, that's perfect, isn't it? They just rock up and off to the races, and everything's all done and dusted. So swing and a miss, I think, unfortunately. Paul says, totally agree, use that already, to actually moving into a new office this week. Oh, nice one. Is there a vlog coming of the new office? I think that'd be a good one to see that going forward. It won't be a single PC, just laptops and docks linked to monitors. I'd love to see it. Pluggable USB. Yep, I think I've got the same 3.0. Yep. So good recommendation there for just £100. Being able to get your get everything connected. So $699 versus $100.
2 docks that I have. So I've got a pluggable USB 3 and I've got a Cal Digit.
Yeah. I think I've got. Is mine Cal Digit? Oh, I can't tell you which one it is. Yeah. And I've got an Elgato one as well. I'm surprised you didn't go for Elgato, knowing you, but that's fine. And Kirsty says Aaron equals Maybe shiny objects.
Magpie, yeah.
Magpie, yeah. That's exactly. Yeah.
Aaron and I are just as bad as each other.
Yeah. The let's put it this way: Superduction wasn't a good thing for me. Okay. Oops. Thank God that's over. Right, I think that's everything today. What a show we had for everyone. We had a few nice topics there, diverse topics. If you've got a topic though that you want to talk to us, as I try and try and stall when I get the question in, then please do use the link that I'm just posting to all the social channels now, and put a little question in to Ask the Accountant. That way we can bring that topic on to the show. Even if you don't give us permission, might steal it anyway, like we did with Sam. So that's how it works. All right, Johann, anything that you want to plug for this week? Anything exciting coming up?
No, I'm just spending a bit of time this week refining my gear setup, ready for digital accountancy show. We've got a lot of content ideas, haven't we, for that show and for the day after, while we're doing we've got cool friend interviews, so that'll be good. So watch out for those. But yeah, nothing overly exciting. I should be getting my hands on a beta for Client Engager this week, which could be huge. So if that is working, I will do some videos and tease everyone with what's coming up for Client Engager in the next week or two. But yeah, we've got quite a huge development map. That's lots of things are releasing in the next 6 to 12 weeks. So there should be a lot of more videos coming out on Client Engager in the coming weeks.
Nice. That should be good. I'm going back to my acting. Well, what's after your debut? What's your next one? Acting second shot
finale.
Yeah, but yeah, probably. We've got an interesting filming session with QuickBooks in Birmingham, of all places. So
nice.
Yeah, I get to pretend to be a dragon's den, or dragon from a dragon's den. So that should be quite an interesting little thing to go and do. Something a bit different, isn't it? So I'm looking forward to that one. And we're ramping up quickly to season, aren't we? Back to Digital Accounting Show, as you already said, and also the QuickBooks Roadshow. So yeah, sequel. Thank you, Andy. Thank you for bringing that one in. Paul, yeah, great show. Thank you for the support. Thank you for coming along on a bank holiday Monday. We do appreciate it. And Kirsty, she's looking forward for a CR demo on Friday.
Oh, Client Engager demo. Yeah, normally I do a demo to one person at a time. In this case, I think I'm demoing to 4 or 5.
Oh, that'll be fun. Excellent.
One of our competitors has had a bit of a rough week for the last 2 weeks. So all of a sudden, we've got a bit of a spike of demand.
Oh, okay. I may know exactly which one you mean. Yeah, excellent. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been a great show, as always. Thanks to you guys. You guys are the ones that make this show what it is, and we really appreciate everyone chipping in and giving us your opinion. So enjoy the rest of the bank holiday, everybody. Enjoy the fact that we're going to that we've got a shorter week, so we're going to be looking forward to that. And we will see you bright and early, 8:30 a.m. next Monday for another episode of Ask the Accountant. So it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Bye.